Hi everyone, I'm Jarka from Design by Life, and this is episode 9 of Mindset Matters. Today's guest is Claire Baker, an exceptional human being, first and foremost, a coach, writer, speaker, and an amazing creative. I'm really honored to have her on the show today because I've been following her for a number of years, and I know this chat is going to be juicy. Welcome, Claire. How are you?
I'm really good. Yeah, I'm great. And I'm really excited to be here. I actually have butterflies. I'm really excited. I'm really glad to be chatting with you.
Oh, so good. So for those that don't know you, could you please introduce yourself, tell us a bit about your business and how you got started?
Of course. So my name is Claire and I'm 30 years old. I'm currently living in London. It's just the morning here, so the sun is just slowly creeping up. And I'm Australian, obviously. And I grew up in the country in Australia. I lived in Melbourne for a number of years and Perth more recently. I work as a coach, a women's coach and a writer. So I work with women who want to take better care of themselves in order to do the thing that they're here to do. So I work with women who have a creative heart, women who know that there's something more that they want to do with their lives, something more that they want to give. And so I support them, whether it's through food and wellness, whether it's through, just how to set more boundaries in their life or how to create more space, how to prioritize themselves. And then from that space, when someone's nice and juicy and nourished and has, more energy to give and their well is full, then they can actually serve and they can actually create and do the thing that they're here to do. So I've always been really passionate about health and wellness, but not because, it's not about being a certain weight or even having glowy skin. It's what are you going to do with that energy? When you've reached that radiant health, then what? That's what I'm really interested in, and I really love that I get to work with women who are on the same page as me. I also, over the last couple of years, have shifted my focus more towards the menstrual cycle because I really think that for women's health, we can't talk about women's health without talking about the menstrual cycle. And in my own personal life and working with clients, chatting with friends, it just started to become so obvious that this had to be an area that needed to not just be a little slice of the pie, but a big focus. And in fact, really, a lot of people who have attended my workshops and clients and who have read my ebooks have said that it's been the missing key for them. They had all the other pieces of wellness and self-care and creativity and spirituality, they've been doing a lot of work, but the menstrual cycle work just helped to be tie it all in together. And it's become the anchor for them as it's become in my own life.
And the $1 million question is why? So where did this idea come from? Why you're not working 9 to 5 and have your own business? Can you tell us a bit about the inspiration?
I think I'm just a really crappy employee, to be honest.
Please give yourself some credit. I think you're totally underselling yourself.
If I look back over my life, I have always been that person that wants to create their own schedule. Even when I have been employed, I'm always the one pushing the boundaries. Can I do a little bit more here and do a little bit less there? And I've always gone for jobs like nannying or direct selling, things that were I could control how I created. And I think I've just always had a really good sense of if it doesn't work for me, then it's not going to work.
Duh.
So, it's having my own business. I just always knew it was something that I was going to do. And I studied business at uni as well as art and design. And I just always knew, from a young age, that I would work for myself. I certainly didn't think that it would happen as quickly as it did. And it was more a personal, a personal tragedy, I guess, that spurred me to do it, to kind of take the leap. I was employed at the time and I was loving my job, but I knew that something was going to change in the next year. And it was actually almost 4 years ago to the day. My younger brother had a motorcycle accident and I shifted my life from Melbourne to Perth to be with him. And I quit my job. I decided to enroll at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition as a health coach, things that I'd been thinking about doing for a little while. I'd been dabbling with the idea of blog, and I'd set up like some social media channels for it, but I hadn't really committed. And I think it's in those moments when like your whole like shit just hits the fan and like all the pieces kind of fall away that you're like, all right, well, what now? Like life really is short. I may as well take the leap. So it was really around that time that I decided, all right, let's give this a crack. I still continued to work part-time. I didn't just jump from like employed to fully self-employed by any means. And I just started tinkering away. I started just blogging more, and then I started taking on some pro bono clients, and then I continued my studies, and just it was very slow, organic growth. And then 18 months after that, I could quit my part-time job, and then I could actually start to do this full-time, and it's certainly just grown and developed from that space. So it wasn't like a here to here, but for me, it worked beautifully.
So do you mean, Claire, you weren't an overnight success and you weren't earning 6 figures in 10 days? You sure? And this is that notion that I just see so frequently now, more so than ever, where there's all these empty promises and young aspiring people, especially those that may not have had their businesses or maybe their fair share of working in a business, so they don't quite know what's realistic and what's not. And I guess with this show, I really want to showcase people that I admire and I absolutely look up to tell us a little bit more about their journey. So it's really great to hear that, it wasn't I knew exactly what I wanted to do or you knew exactly what you wanted to do. It evolved organically over time, and you gave it enough space and you had that safety blanket along the way. So A, there's no shame in having a full-time or part-time job while you're building your business, and B, it does happen over time, and patience and persistence are such key elements to that hard work. But, right, there's always a but. No doubt there was doubt. Was there ever a day or a week or a month, and please tell me that it was more than an hour, that you were like, you know what, I just want to pack this up, there's absolutely no point to this, no one is listening, no one is there, why am I doing this? Have you had that? Please.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, like literally from the beginning to like yesterday.
Right. Okay. So I am not going insane here. That's good.
It's always there, right? Like the inner critic is just a part of this journey. It's a part of a creative journey, and having your own business it's such a creative body of work. Having your own business is an extension of who we are, and it should be. So it is creative. I have this clear memory of being in the car with one of my beautiful friends from home, bless her, and I was telling her I was thinking about starting a blog. So this was, I guess, like 4-ish or so years ago, and she was just the voice of my inner critic. She was just like, oh God, like, what are you going to write about? Who's going to read it? Like, oh, okay, there's so many blogs out there. Like, why would anyone want to read your blog? Like, it's so saturated. And I just remember thinking, oh, okay, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like, I get what you mean. Maybe it won't happen, but I'm going to give it a go anyway, And I think I just have that temperament that, like, oh yeah, there's definitely doubt. I can see that maybe no one will read this blog. Press publish. Okay, people are reading it. Cool. All right, that's great. I'll put that in my back pocket. I'll kind of use that to, like, as evidence for the fact that maybe people will read it. Cool. All right, next step. Maybe will I enroll at IIN? Well, it could be a waste of money. Will it give me anything? It's a huge investment. Can I afford it? Let's just give it a go and see what happens. Oh, great. I have clients, so it's just sort of like there's a little bit more evidence now for the fact that, like, that's possible. And you don't know what's possible until you give it a go. And so the doubt is always there. There's always another level, because then you have the evidence. Great, I can bring on clients. Awesome. how long can I sustain this for, though? Is this sustainable? Then you have a couple of years of clients and you're like, okay, it is sustainable. And then there's always something new, whether it's an ebook or whether it's been a course, whether it's been this move to the other side of the world with my business. Like, huge doubt. Can I actually take my business, which has a lot of its audience rooted in Australia, to London and actually continue to do this? You know, I didn't know because I hadn't done it before.
Yeah.
Turns out that I can. And now, like, great, now I have evidence of that. And now it's the next thing, like, all right, I'm going to write a book proposal in the next few months. Terrifying. Like, I have so much doubt, you know? And it's like, okay, great, I'll write that book proposal because I have evidence of other things that I've been afraid of and they've been okay.
So what would you... Sorry to interrupt there, Claire. What would you say that keeps you that driven? Like, what is it that makes you want to choose that book proposal or take that leap to move to London? What do you think it is within you that helps you take that step and say yes to it?
I know myself very well, and I know what I want, and I know what it's like to not give that to myself or to not follow what's true for me, because I've done that so many times as well, you know, and continue to as well.
And you had regrets? Did you have regrets? Is that the perspective that you get, or?
I guess regret. I'm not certain. I'm not really one for regrets. Maybe it's more just I know that feeling of just like that feeling of just not being alive, I guess, when you're doing things that aren't true for you.
I have goosebumps right now, actually. As soon as you said not being alive, that's such a... I've never heard anyone actually express it like that. It's such a really deep and insightful expression, I think, because it comes down to being in this safety zone, and we think that that's what we need because, you know, our family is around us and we've got, you know, that social circle that we feel comfortable with. And I was always fascinated by people that have just displaced them willingly, put their hand up and said, no, I know this is great, but I don't feel like I'm living my life. I don't feel like I am supposed to be here and there is more for me to explore. And then I think it's easier to take that step to go and move or you know, change jobs or start a business. I'm so glad that you said that, because I really wanted to see the reason behind your move to London, because I mean, like I said, I've been watching your journey and you have had this amazing network of women in Australia, and you have a huge following, and I know just how well respected you are within the circles that we both sort of move within. And to go and say, you know what, that's great, but I am now removing myself from that and going all the way to the other side of the world, not knowing what will happen, surely that would have been quite scary.
Yeah, it definitely was and has been, but it was something that I've just always wanted to do, and I just had that feeling. And I think once that desire is acknowledged, you can't unacknowledge it, you know, like once it's there and if that seed is planted, or you can ignore it, but then I know what happens. That's that feeling of not really being alive. And so for me, like, being true is listening to, like, what do I really want? Like, what would be, you know, what would be another amazing chapter in this, like, life that I'm living? And I do think that I have a pretty good grasp on the fact that life is finite, you know? Like, I can be safe and I can stay where it's safe and secure and I know how it plays out, or I can listen to that voice that's saying, try this, why not, you know?
Yeah.
So
how did it pan out for you? How is life in London?
So when I left Australia, I was like, all right, this is a big jump, and it is different. Like you said, it's definitely moving away from like a place where I've certainly built an audience, and most of my clients are Australian. I had no idea how it was going to go. I was very open and and willing to the idea that I might need to find some work when I arrive, because I don't know, is my business just kind of going to like fall away? I just had no idea, and totally fine with that. Like you said, there's no shame in that at all. Like if that was the next piece of the puzzle, great, cool, I'm totally open to it. However, it's actually been the opposite. Things have really thrived since I've been here. So I think this is the beauty as well of the time that we're living in now, is the fact that, you know, we're a lot of our work is online. And so while, you know, so most of my clients had been in Australia, I had worked with some in the UK and Europe, and quite a few people who had been following me from the Northern Hemisphere, once they saw that I was coming here, actually got in touch to say, oh, now I'd really love to work with you, because the time zones are a bit easier. And so that's been really beautiful to then connect with more people on this side of the world. I've had a workshop here, which, you know, wild to be able to sell out a workshop within only a couple of months of moving to a new continent. You know, but that just speaks to the power of the internet and to the way that we're using it today to be able to reach people wherever they are in the world.
So if you had to pick a few words that you live by, what would they be?
I think I would have normally said do what you love. I think that's always kind of been my catchphrase, like do what you love, because that is like where the desire is, where you find the desire. Like just start with small things, you know, do what it is that you enjoy. And I do believe that, but I think most recently it's really, I guess, like become more succinct to just stay true. Just those two words, you know, for me, when I think about wanting to stay alive and in my energy and do what I'm here to do, then just to stay true feels good for me.
Do you feel guided by your intuition more so than your mind?
Often we have to swing the pendulum from like one way to the other. So I was always very much up in my head. I have one of those minds. It's like, la, 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 la. And you know, I'm like, I'm smart, and I have like, you know, good, like I've got good brains, you know, and so I'm grateful for that. And I've always really like relied heavily on that, on my mind. And then when I like learn all about this living from the heart and intuition, I'm like, oh my God, like, yeah, that's the answer. Like, this is what I need. And I did need that. I did need to really swing that way for quite a long time and to learn how to like trust my instincts. But it's the yin and the yang, right? It's like the masculine and the feminine. It's the head and the heart. It's, you know, the two of those coming together, the duality, like the integration of them, that I think for me is really where my power lies. And it's again with the menstrual cycle work, it's looking at, you know, in the menstrual cycle we talk about the yin and the yang. There's two sides. There's a masculine phase and there's a feminine phase, like the luteal and the follicular. Like we have these parts of ourselves that when we bring them together, that's really where the magic lies.
So you mentioned you nurture it. Is there anything in particular that you do?
Follow it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the self-care, I guess, you know, you need to have that clarity, right? And maybe the space. So is there like yoga or any tools that you do that help you get into that zone where you can really trust that intuition and what it's telling you?
Yeah, of course. Journaling 100,000% is my, like, that's my go-to for everything. It is literally just the way I understand my life. You know, I love Julia Cameron's notion of morning pages. Like, just wake up and just write for 10 minutes or 3 pages or whatever it is that you need to just get out what's happening up in here, and then you can really access the good stuff, you know. And often it is, if anyone else read it, you know, they're not going to find anything truly like, you know, gold. No, there's not much gold for them, but it is for me. You know, it's sifting through all the stuff we take in every day. And just finding, like, again, that truth.
Is it scary when you go and write about something that's quite personal, quite still emotional for you? What's your process when you share with your tribe?
When it's something that's particularly... Well, to start this off, the very first blog post that I ever wrote was about my brother's accident and his brain injury and how, like, that's affected my life and my family. And the next post, I think, was about, like, I'm going to stop binge drinking every weekend. And then it was, like, the next post was, I'm experiencing intense anxiety. Like, let's write about that. So I think from the very beginning, I was like, you know what? And I think that's the beauty of starting off when you don't actually have a great deal of followers and you're not actually doing it as a job, because at that point it was just like, and it was just an outlet. It was a way for me to connect. It was a way for me to understand what was happening. It was like, it was very healing for me. And I think that it's changed. Look, I'll be honest, it's definitely become more challenging as my business has become more intertwined with it, and I've become a coach. And then do I have to be more mindful about what I'm sharing? And as I have a greater reach now, do I have to be more careful about what I share and also more considerate to other people? So that's been a theme for me. Yeah. Particularly with the stuff with my brother. I stopped talking about that couple of years ago.
Why is that? Have you had any hate mail or anyone sort of judging you, or?
There were some issues with someone that's directly like involved in the situation as well. Not issues. Okay. It was just not something that they were comfortable with, and so okay, great, fine. I won't talk about that anymore. Yeah. And so it is important that we are considerate of other people's. We have a right to share our story, but that was someone who I was like, great, if you're not comfortable with me talking about this online anymore, as I am kind of reaching more people, I don't want to talk about it because that makes me uncomfortable to talk about. Saying that, the most recent blog post that I wrote was about my recent relationship breakup. And so after 3 years of being together, my ex-partner and I, we split up, and I was like, how do I approach this? Because this is something that I want to talk about, but it's something that is intensely private. And how do I not share the details of this, which no one needs to know? That's for me and for him. But also to be open with my community about it too, because I really believe, like you said, vulnerability is the key to connection, and I want to talk about this. So that really meant spending time in my journal, and I think often the most vulnerable blog posts of mine have started off, in my journal, and then I've fleshed them out. What do I want to keep? What do I not kind of want to keep? And then they've just developed, and then they move onto the page and into WordPress, and then I press publish when I feel like this is me giving, I'm being honest and truthful here. Yeah. However, I don't think that we have to share every last little detail of our lives in order to be vulnerable and to be honest and open. It's not necessary, you can keep things sacred.
I really like that, because a lot of the times I get questions from people saying, well, what do I post? Can I post this? Would people like to see that or not? And I think it's that, if you doubt that, then if in doubt, just don't do it. And if you haven't really worked out where that sweet spot is, then just work on it. And maybe it's through journaling, or maybe it's through reflection, or maybe just share a photograph instead of describing it with words. But I think it's such a good point where you really need to respect others. And if this will involve others as part of the story, then you really need to think about, well, how would that person feel if they came across this and actually read it? Is this okay? Because we're not here to, stroke our egos and say, hey, look, my side is the right side. It's there to share because, you respect your community and you want your community to know what's unfolding for you. And, I totally get it. And I really respect that about you, Claire. And that's one of the things that I love about you, that you're not pretending, you're yourself, and you always also share the learnings. You may not share what's unfolding right then and there. You share it after you processed it and you found that one thing that you want to share as a learning, because that someone else can actually benefit from it. And that's a big difference, right? When we tell stories.
Oh my God. Hit the nail on the head. Exactly that. When I was debating, do I talk about my relationship? I'm like, would it actually be useful for anyone right now? No, it wouldn't be, because I'm still trying to figure it out myself, right? However, I can talk about binge drinking or bad men in my early 20s and that way my body image stuff, because that's I process that. Yeah. It's very honest, it's personal, it's vulnerable, but it's also helpful for somebody else because I've actually processed it. I've created a little bit of distance between myself now and that stuff. and then I can look at it, you know, and then share it. Whereas when you're in it, like, and it's happening, like, right now, I don't know. I don't think that we're always, like, super useful when we share from that place.
Yeah, timing is everything.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone is right now listening to this interview or watching it and they're thinking, I'm just so stuck, I am debilitated by fear, I don't know whether my idea is any good, I doubt myself, why should I do it? It's been done before. Like all of the usual suspects that you could just imagine that would undermine anyone with an entrepreneurial spirit. What would you tell them?
Do it.
And they would
Just
be like, well, how? Claire, tell me how.
Take that first, next, most obvious step, you know, like write out what would the next 3 steps be, you know, what could they be? Could it be starting to share more sort of entrepreneurial or like your zone of genius on Instagram maybe? You know, I started with social media for a long time before I actually moved on to a blog. And so is that something that you could start to do? Could you just start to chat to like your like potential maybe ideal clients or customers, like create a little survey like out of friends and family, like is this idea something they'd be interested in? Ask them to tell you what they think your strengths are in this realm, and just start to build your confidence that way, you know, start to create a vision board, like just get evidence in your life from people who are already doing it, from those who love you to support you and encourage you, like figure out who your support team's going to be and just start to just tell people that this is an idea that you're having and plant those little seeds. And then once you've done that, then, you know, like I said, it's just like, what's the next thing now? Like, then what's the next thing? You don't have to see the whole plan, you know, in the very beginning. And even if you could, it would change anyway. So I would say to just write down, what are the next 3 steps? Do those. Then what are the next 3? And let yourself screw up, because there's room for screw ups and success. Like it's just how it goes. You know, it's not linear by any means. And the biggest mistakes that I have made and over these past few years have been like tremendously painful at the time, but tremendously useful.
And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, where can they find you?
Totally. So you can look up, my website is thisislifeblood.com, or you can just Google Claire Baker with an I and an E. And on Facebook, I'm under Claire Baker, and also on Instagram and Twitter.
What's next for This Is Lifeblood in 2017?
Well, first of all, This Is Lifeblood is probably going to move aside for clairebaker.com, so that's going to happen at some point. Writing my first book, so turning Adore Your Cycle, which is my most recent ebook, into a book, which is like really scary but exciting, and more workshops here in London, and I'd like to do some more in Europe as well, and, you know, developing more courses around things like journaling and journaling through your menstrual cycle, and just these like tools and things that people can actually use to get to know themselves and to take the best care of themselves, to create the things they're here to create.
Beautiful. And we will be sure to watch you do all of that and more. Thank you so much, Claire. I really appreciate your time, and I honor you, goddess. You're amazing. Love your work.
Right back at you, Jarka. Pleasure.
And and until next time, I guess. Thanks,
Indeed.
Claire. Bye.
Bye.